Hey everybody! I last night did a 1.5 hour sprinting spray session with some new paints that were sent to me from Zurc over in the Philippines, and they're a new manufacturer, and they sent me a selection of their lacquer paints for a bit of review. So last night, in an hour and a half spray session, I went ahead and sprayed this from a fabricated part using some basic stencils, and these were all done in lacquers. So the main purpose of that was actually just to help relieve a little bit of boredom and keep people interested and enthused with what's going on, knowing that it's all a bit tough right now. But I thought I'd give you my review, honest opinions on these things. Now, I did not pay for these paints. These paints were supplied by Zerk and the Canberra Hobby Centre in Australia. Even in these trying times, actually, they were successfully able to get me these paints in under 48 hours, because it was all done in a bit of a rush. And so they completely came to the party, sent me these paints, and asked for what I thought on them. And I've provided some extra technical feedback back to the manufacturer as well on some of these, but as a general statement, these lacquers that they produce, these are excellent. So I'll start the basic review with this. So I'll start with the user experience of them. So when they arrive completely shrink wrapped in this sort of. I was just sort of peeling that off there, completely shrink wrapped in this, and it was very easy to open. I just ran my thumbnail around the outside, twisted the cap, and open it comes. So that's the first part of that. Now, I noticed that a lot of these actually come with, and you won't be able to see it, but I believe it sounds like a little polyurethane ball that sits inside there to help mix them up. So the mixing of them is really, really good. And the text that they use on the packaging. So I actually want to talk about the packaging a little bit, because to me the packaging actually matters a fair bit. It sort of contributes to the user experience of the whole thing. So nice clear lettering. The lettering is all the right size so that I can read it, if I'm peering over the top of my glasses. It gives some basic recommendations. It says to spray at 15 to 20 pounds using a 0.2 or a 0.5. In my demonstration of these, I actually sprayed these almost exclusively through a 0.3. This 0.3 actually, a 0.3 Sotar 2020, and I was running anywhere between 15 and 8 pounds when I was spraying these things. So yeah, but in terms of these things, look, the bottle is actually a little bit bigger than your average sort of bottle. So here's a Vallejo Mecca, just to give you some ideas of size. Now, this is why bottle size matters. In this size bottle, it's actually, for me, just a whisker hard to grip, because I've got a little bit of arthritis in my hands. And it's a little bit hard to grip and undo the cap, right? And actually get that thing off and then put it back on when you're using a single hand. With these ones, because the bottle is substantially larger, what it means is I can get a better grip on the thing, and I can open that a lot more easily. So that's the first thing that I really, really like about this. These things use a two-part cap. So for anyone who doesn't know what these things do, that two-part moving cap, that inside, hear that? That inside cap is what seals, and it rotates independently of the outside cap. So there's a little set of teeth on the top here, and that means you can tighten it up with one hand, and that's not going to leak, like, at all. So we don't have any of that sort of faffing around where you've got to take the cap off and then take off another cap, or faff around with the little thing that keeps popping off. Guns. So I really like that aspect. The next aspect about the bottle that I particularly like is that the label, look at this, the label actually is bare there, which gives me a really, really significant advantage. I can, being colorblind, absolutely see what sort of color, pigment grain, and so on and so forth I'm going to be getting from that paint. So when it all mixes up and all that sort of business, I get a nice clear picture of what that paint really is, which means, because I can't run off the cap. So, and I need a lot of surface area to be able to see exactly what kind of paint I'm dealing with, right? So that is a big plus. I love that aspect of it. Also, the bigger size makes it actually a little bit harder to knock the thing over. Okay, so what else about the UX of these things? I know that these are lacquers. These are what's called an acrylic lacquer, so it's got acrylic written up there, but it really, in my view, needs to say acrylic lacquer or acrylic aqueous, so that I know what solvent to use when I'm going to push this through an airbrush. So I think that's good. Another thing that I'd actually really like to see on these bottles is the mixing date, the initial mixing date, so that I know how old that paint is, which again gives me clues as to whether or not I need to include a paint retarder or extra thinning medium, or extra just medium, just to bring the paint volume up, or the medium level up in case it's getting a little bit too heavy on the pigment. Now let's get over into the actual product quality of these things. I'll pick up a different one. Actually, no, the metallic is actually a really good one to work with here. You probably won't be able to see this on camera, but the pigment quality in the metallics in particular, and I've got another metallic here. So this is their, what is it? It's a charcoal black. So it looks like that, unmixed. That's been sitting on the bench for a couple of hours. So I'm just going to give that a quick whiz. But so the metallic flex in these metallic paints is super fine. It doesn't actually say super fine, it just says fine. But this is easily more fine than the Gun's super fine. And when I was putting this down, it held true to that. Dry time was anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes in 18 degrees Celsius. Humidity was pretty good. It was quite dry at the time, and like I said, I was pumping it through at 15 pound through a 0.3 at about 10 pounds range, 10 centimeters range. So, so the pigment quality is excellent on these. My personal preference, not so much for the metallics, because the metallics actually, I think, in terms of pigmentation density, is spot on, and the pigment density in the gloss black is brilliant. Easily one of the top two gloss blacks that I've ever used. But if we're talking about these, you know, any of these ones, these clear colours, right? Sorry, these base colours, right, rather than the clears. So if we're talking about these ones, to me, the pigment density is a little high. I would probably bring that down about 5% with some reducing medium. Not to slow down the paint drying time or to make it thinner, because the actual paint thickness itself is excellent. In fact, it was absolutely spot on. Straight out of the bottle, this is as good as I've used in any other from any other manufacturer. But the pigment density is a little bit high. I would bring the pigment density down by maybe 5%, just so that I can use it more for shading. So what that gives me in terms of, you know, artistic value or practical, you know, actual value, is the ability to be able to pre and post shade with these sorts of things, because then I can modulate my airbrush through the pull to drop the paint a little bit better, to give me some better options, right? Does that mean it's a bad paint? No, it's actually an excellent paint. And actually something I haven't tested here is the durability of the thing. So I'm just going to get these, and I'm just going to give that a bit of a scratch. Yeah, okay, so that's on par. That's on par with pretty much everything else I would expect. It absolutely resists fingerprints though. So this is a high gloss that I've used on the back. Fingerprint resistance is excellent. So that's really good. I'm very happy with that. So the clear reds. I used a lot of clears last night as well. So I used candy orange, candy green, clear red, which is kind of a candy. It's a little bit less glossy than the clear, than the candies. So it seems anyway. And but I found the pigmentation density in these to be excellent. The colour, I'm told, is pretty true to form, right? And as it's basically as advertised on the bottle. So the colours inside there were excellent. Very happy with that. Probably one of the things that I'm most impressed with was this mirror gloss. So simple, I just dropped it straight into the pot, straight out of the bottle, and just dropped it on here. Now on this piece, you can see this is an easy 24 hours afterwards. It is as glossy as. That is a brilliant, brilliant finish. And the comical thing about all of this is that I did precisely zero preparation on this part. So I just fabricated this wing up, and there's reference material on my on MechaSlam Facebook page if you want to see what the original source material was. I couldn't get it true to form in terms of colour, but that's not the point of what I was demonstrating. But that mirror gloss finish, that is right up there. So it dried down, it sucked in onto the piece really nicely, and it has retained that super, super glossy finish. One thing I saw, and I could actually watch it as I laid it down, is that it actually got more glossy as it dried. So I let it dry for 5 to 10 minutes, and it looked a whisker hazy. Once it flashed off, I threw down the second coat, and this is only 2 coats. Threw down the second coat, and that gloss just went off the charts. So that mirror gloss, this mirror gloss, if you're looking for a mirror finish with stuff all preparation, this is it. With a tiny bit more actual preparation onto this thing, and you see I've got contaminants in there and all sorts of things, and contaminants here, that's some sort of chemical reaction just there, and hard to show on screen, but that's some dust particles. I've got scratches, I've got all sorts of flaws from when I was smashing this around with pliers and things. But yeah, that's a fantastic gloss. So would I buy these? Yep, I would buy these. I think they have application. I think they have broad application, which means you can use these paints for all sorts of things that you're looking to do, whether it's gunpla, automotive. I'm unsure what the military colours are like, but certainly as far as their Fast and Furious colours go, these things are absolutely magical. So I understand these are very economical to buy, and because of the large amount that you get in here, I think it actually says on the bottle, I think it's, what is it? Here we go, 50 millilitres. So that's 50 millilitres. So that basically equates to about 1.5 pots of guns. But the thing for me is zero mixing. So I don't have to mix, which means I don't need to buy a 50-cent bottle. I don't need to pop a 5-cent ball bearing in it. It's ready to go straight out of the box. And on top of that, this little nozzle thing, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because that's a tiny pot. It fits in there, which means I can recover really, really quickly whatever unused paint I've got inside the pot, which I'm a big fan of doing, because I switch paints very often without I switch paints all the time, and so being able to recover these is good, and definitely a plus. So as I understand, in Australia you can buy these things from canberrahobbycentre.com.au. They are the Zurc paint. Zerk, I don't get that logo, but it's kind of cool. But these are the Zerk paints from their lacquer range, and I really did enjoy spraying these things. I think these things can yeah, I'm going to go out there and say it. I think these things will box head to head with some of my personal favourites, being the Guns GX range and the my beloved SMS range. I think these things box head to head with them, and I'm looking forward to where they go with some of their specialty finishes. So I hope this was all very useful. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments, and y'all stay safe out there.